The Rookie has had over 100 episodes since it first started airing. And with that many episodes, some are bound to be wild, some are over the top, and some are the textbook definition of jumping the shark.
I will level this place!
And in this video, we are going over the top 10 craziest and wildest episodes in The Rookie. At number 10, we are starting off this list with Season 5, Episode 8, The Collar. The episode with bombs literally attached by the neck. There are two different plots in this episode. One is involving Aaron, Angela, and Nyla trying to figure out if Aaron should become a detective, and that one's relatively normal. But if we look at the other plot of the episode, that is where the crazy starts. While Nolan and Selena are out on patrol, there's a speeding car that passes right by them. And while they do try to pull over the vehicle, the driver never fully stops. They're super confused about why, so they run up to the car on foot to demand they turn off the engine. This is where they discover the bomb around her neck. She peels off and they have to go after her. Meanwhile, the rest of the LAPD is on standby while Gray is confirming the bomb with the bomb squad. Nolan and Selena stick behind to try and guide her to a safe place so they can take care of her. They get to this safe place, but they can't take care of the bomb in time, and she dies from the explosion. Meanwhile, Tim and Lucy find out about another victim who is also driving around with a bomb around his neck, during which they try to talk to him and he panics. He gets out of the car and cuts it off with garden shears. This got the bomb off of his neck, and that's when they were able to discover the timer, as well as who was doing this. They catch Richard Dormer, someone who worked at the same company as the two victims with the collars on. But then they discover that the CEO also has one on. Nolan and Selena go to save him, and Nolan runs in to take care of the bomb while Selena is outside with Richard. Richard tries to apologize and tell Selena how to disarm the bomb, but Selena knew he was lying, and she told Nolan to cut the opposite wire. He does, and it works. This episode was crazy because of the bombs, but this next one is crazy for a whole different reason. In 9th place, we have Season 4, Episode 22, Day in the Hole, the episode that introduces Jake and Sava, the doppelgangers of Tim and Lucy. The events of the episode itself aren't the craziest thing in the world, but the sheer concept of the doppelgangers gives it a spot on this list. Think about it for a second. What are the chances that two people who look exactly like Tim and Lucy would be in LA? Then, what are the chances of these two people knowing each other? And finally, what are the chances that these two people were dating? These two are not related in any way to Tim and Lucy whatsoever. And so this plotline was completely out of left field. And while it's interesting to watch, I think the chances were just too far out there. Moving on to number 8, we have Season 5, Episode 4, The Choice, where we see one of the craziest dilemmas in the entire show. Up to this point, Rosalind Dyer has caused a lot of problems for the LAPD for a long time now, especially causing problems for Officer Nolan, as she took an interest in trying to break his mind. A few episodes earlier, she escaped from custody and was on the run, all while killing more people along the way. However, Rosalind was smart, and she knew that she was running out of time before they would eventually catch her again. So she wanted to go out with a bang. She hired an accomplice to build a massive machine of slow and inevitable death, with slow rising water that would take hours to get to the top. And once it did, chemicals would drop into the water, and this would obliterate anybody in it. She decided to use this on Bailey Noon, Nolan's fiance at the time. She fell into this contraption, and this is where the problems began. When the LAPD showed up, Nolan was given a ring by Rosalind. She made him drop all of his belongings that could be used to track him, and he was told to get into a car and she would lead him to where he needs to go. After a lot of back and forth, he makes it to a mansion where Rosalind is waiting for him with dinner. All the while, the water is slowly rising on Bailey, and they're worried that she isn't going to make it. The LAPD is trying to figure out how to turn it off, but they can't figure out where the generator is. Rosalind sits Nolan down by a screen, where she makes him choose between his fiance's life or to keep his morals intact and let her die. It seems like the LAPD is getting close to saving her, given that the LAPD found the generator. The problem with this is that once they turn the generator off, all of the chemicals in the contraption will go off on the surface of the water, forcing Bailey to hold her breath. They all take this chance, including Nolan. He did not shoot her, and Rosalind is surprised, yet satisfied nonetheless. Nolan takes her out to get sent back to jail, and Rosalind is sniped and killed by another one of her accomplices to prevent her from going back. This is how the episode concludes, and I think that just a normal serial killer having all of these connections and puppets with seemingly infinite money to build these things is just crazy and makes no sense to me. Next up at number 7, we have Season 6, Episode 10, Escape Plan. And I think this may be the first example on this list where the show really jumps the shark. If anyone watching hasn't heard of the phrase jumping the shark before, it means that a show has reached a point where it has gone too far and is introducing new ideas that are far above and beyond the original purpose. Basically, the show is doing stuff so unrealistic that it can't even be explained. And when you have regular city police officers going on international hostage rescue missions, I think that falls into the jumping the shark category quite well. We're going to ignore the Oscar and Jason part of the story because that's not out of the ordinary. A couple of episodes prior, Blair London's operation of recording personal therapy sessions of the LAPD officers came to light. And while she didn't intend for it to hurt anyone, her boss, Monica Stevens, did want to hurt people. And when Monica found out that Blair got exposed, she had to take care of the loose end. So in this episode, Monica kidnaps Blair and heads on a plane with her to Argentina, where Monica would hand Blair over to a Swiss trafficker who would dispose of her. The shark jumping comes into play when Nolan and Nyla join the FBI in going to save her, despite none of them having any sort of jurisdiction in Argentina. Not even the FBI was able to do anything. All they could do is sit and observe. Nolan has enough of this after a while and decides to hijack one of the trucks and go after them. Nyla joins him and they save Blair London from the trafficker. While Nolan does try to apprehend Monica too, she shoots him in the side, and that allows her to make her escape. This episode was insane to me because it makes no sense for normal LAPD officers to fly to Argentina to save someone. On to number 6, we're going to talk about Season 7, Episode 11, Speed. The episode about a bomber who hijacks a bus to acquire $100 million. So this is another one of those over-the-top bomb-related episodes that you can't help but think, this would literally never happen. And that's what makes it crazy. So this episode starts relatively tame, where Nolan and Selena are sent undercover on a bus to prevent and apprehend a crime that happens on it. At first, it's just a pickpocket, nothing out of the ordinary for LA. But then, two guys get on the bus with a backpack yelling that they had a bomb and that they had to keep moving or else he would set it off. This was something that Nolan and Selena were obviously not prepared to handle, and so the rest of the LAPD responded by surrounding the bus and making sure everyone on the bus stayed safe. Lieutenant Gray began to negotiate with the bombers, and they wanted $100 million or else the whole bus would explode. They weren't going to do that, of course, so Gray tries to get Nolan and Selena to do something. After one of the guys points a gun at a civilian, Selena takes him down, and he accidentally injures himself, and he started to bleed out. They needed a hospital fast, but the other guy wouldn't let them stop. After some back and forth negotiation and some first aid help from Bailey, the guy agreed to drop his brother and 5 hostages off at the hospital, and the bus had to keep going. But Nolan apprehends him after a bump sends the guy sliding, saving everybody. One of the people on the bus was Denise Summers, who took the opportunity to grab Nolan's data card in order to obtain the information off of it. This information was given to her boss, Monica. Why is she back? We're just going to move on to number 5, where we have Season 4, Episode 5, ACH. The episode where there was a literal zombie apocalypse that broke out. So this episode takes place on Halloween, and as the episode name's acronym explains it, anything can happen. The beginning of the episode? It's like most Rookie episodes, not very eventful, but Nyla and Nolan arrive at a park where people are screaming about a zombie. They're confused at first, but the people weren't exactly wrong. As soon as said zombie sees Nolan, she attacks him, and then attacks Nyla afterwards. The zombie then makes a run for it, and they apprehend her. Super confused, they take her to the hospital. Later on, Tim and Lucy also encounter one of the zombies, where he jumps onto their shop and starts breaking the glass. After the first zombie has calmed down, they try to talk to her, but there's irreparable brain damage. This is when the onslaught of incoming zombies arrive at the hospital. They identify the drug causing this as Bomb X, and they have to figure out where it's coming from. Turns out, Pete, of all people, helps them with this. He shows Nolan the username where you can get the drug from, and then agrees to be the decoy to find the supplier. They track down the guy, and Pete buys his stock out, so then they have to follow him. Nolan and Tim then enter a theater where there's more zombies, and they fight them off while also apprehending the drug creator. All in all, this episode is nuts, purely for the fact that there was basically a zombie apocalypse. Anyone who doesn't find that crazy is crazy themselves. Now on to number 4, we have Season 3, Episode 7, True Crime. The documentary episode about a celebrity, religion. This episode is based around the story of Corey Harris, a child superstar who was famous from a sitcom back in the 90s called Paul's Place. When his stardom started to fade, he started his own religious group, and he was the focus of this group. In the documentary, we see a lot of crazy moments where we see the intensity of this religious group. When a father is yelling for his daughter Debbie to come back, and Corey tells him that she's home now and that she's happy. Debbie doesn't originally want to leave. That is until her father says her mother's cancer is back and only has a couple weeks left to live. Debbie breaks in the matter of a second and leaves with her dad. But then we learn about Corey's murder, which was live streamed with all of his followers watching him die. We also learn about how Corey turned his religious group into a robbery ring where they would target celebrities' houses. And then there was the screenplay. 500 pages of Corey turning his religious group into a horrible sci-fi story, to the dismay of Charlotte, his fiance. And do you remember a season prior where there was those 5 people on the rooftop who were going to jump? Corey was filming that. There were so many crazy and random isolated instances in this episode that added up to a documentary that, to be honest, was pretty hard to follow for some people. But if you did understand it, you saw the insane story of a celebrity going off the deep end and making a religious group of himself. On to our number 3 spot, we got Season 4, Episode 1, Life and Death. Another example of the LAPD overstepping their jurisdiction to go on a crazy and unrealistic mission. So at the end of Season 3, Lopez was kidnapped by La Fiera at her wedding, and this episode continues from there. La Fiera takes Lopez all the way to Guatemala, where she was going to live in luxury for a few months until she gave birth to her baby. Then, La Fiera would take her baby and end Lopez's life. What was the LAPD's response to this? Take the proper channels? Nope. The main group of normal police officers decided to track down a contact of theirs named Max, who would supply them with the necessities to go to Guatemala and save her themselves. They get to Guatemala by helicopter, and Max warns them that they have 10 hours to get her, or he would leave without them. So they get to work, and they try to find a way to get into the house. Nolan uses his construction knowledge to go to where they would have blueprints of the home to try and acquire them. The lady there is hesitant to help him because she doesn't want to get in trouble with La Fiera and the police. So Nolan sets off the alarm to get everyone out of the building. While everyone is panicked, he goes searching for them, and just in the nick of time, he finds them. He then makes his escape as everyone walks back in. Eventually, they realize that they can't get in since extra fortifications were made to the house. Begrudgingly, they move to Plan B. Plan B was Wesley going into Guatemala under the guise of making a deal with La Fiera. She takes him down to Lopez, and then Wesley secretly gives her a medication that would start her labor. He says they gotta take her to the hospital, but La Fiera goes scorched earth, thinking he did something to her, and goes with her to the hospital while Wesley is taken away to be killed. While everyone goes to retrieve Lopez from La Fiera, Nolan goes to save Wesley, and he succeeds. The others succeed too, and on the way to their helicopter, Lopez shoots La Fiera, and this kills her. Every single minute of this episode was insane, and I couldn't take my eyes off my screen while watching. But can we please stop having the LAPD doing international agency work, please? Let's move on to the second craziest episode of the show. Season 7, Episode 12, April Fools, where LA basically had its own purge. The main conflict of this episode starts off pretty tame. Livy, the LAPD social media manager, puts up a couple of April Fool's jokes on their social media pages that get people really confused. The first one involves Parking Ticket Amnesty Day, where if you brought in your parking ticket, they would forgive it. Obviously, this wasn't true, so Tim goes to Lucy and tells her to cut it out. She says it's just a joke, and Tim gets pretty miffed at this, but leaves without escalating anything more. Then she posted a get out of jail free card onto the page too, where people were getting arrested and thought this would get them bailed out. To Livy's credit, both of these jokes seemed pretty obvious, but people can be pretty stupid, so Tim goes to her and fires her. Livy is not happy about this, so as revenge, she posts that all crime is legal for 3 hours, and then locks the LAPD out of their accounts. And this starts the purge. While the cyber crime sector works on hacking back into the accounts, everyone is sent out to manage the purge as best as possible. While out there, people are tortured and killed, houses are damaged and broken into, and so much more. Their job was to focus on people-related crimes, and that property was low priority. While Nolan and his new rookie were out, they noticed the body of the man from the call they took earlier, and they started to attend to the woman. A group of purgers start to threaten them, and they wanted the shop. And while Nolan and the rookie attempted to hold these purgers back, the woman made a run for it. And afterwards, so did they. After this, Livy calls Tim, begging him to save her, since people broke into where she was, and she was scared that she was going to die. Tim, Lucy, and a bunch of other officers raid the building trying to find her. And then they do find her and save her, then arrest her right after for causing the purge in the first place. The police having to deal with the purge is beyond wild, and that's why I think this deserves the number 2 spot. But now we have the number 1 craziest episode in the entirety of the show. Season 7, Episode 1, The Shot. The episode where there was a literal nuke in Los Angeles. This is one of the only episodes in the show where the beginning of the episode is almost as crazy as the main conflict. The beginning of the episode consists of the LAPD raiding a house that Jason might be in, since it's not safe for Bailey to come back home if he's still at large. Unfortunately, they did not find him there. But after a calm and brief intermission where we meet the new rookies, we get to a pharmacy robbery with Nolan and Selena. Nolan had a clean shot, but he didn't take it. And this results in the robber carjacking a civilian's car and shooting the civilian in the process. This hurts Nolan deeply. And while this seems normal for the rookie standards, this missed opportunity comes into play later. Tim and Penn run into a reckless driver of a stolen vehicle, and this car eventually swerves into a parked one and crashes. And after they get back to the station to check the stolen vehicle, the radiation monitor goes off, and this is where we hear about the nuke that has entered LA from Ukraine that went missing at the port. This is insanely dangerous because not only is it a nuke, but it was also in an 80-pound bag, which made it easy to maneuver and harder to get their hands on. After some digging, Nolan and Selena are sent to put eyes on the house of the thieves, and they notice some fighting going on inside. They decide to sneak in and try to apprehend them. They did this by having Selena distract them as Nolan got inside. Unfortunately, the nuke isn't there, and it never was, so they interrogate one of the guys to get the information that they needed. Eventually, they do get it, and all of them go after the vehicle with the nuke in it. The biggest problem is that they had to somehow get the nuke taken from them without accidentally shooting it. Now back to when Nolan missed the shot. 2 guys with the nuke run into a city plaza, and even though they are surrounded, the LAPD has no way to safely apprehend them without detonating the nuke. The guys shoot at all of the officers and even take down a couple of them. Things are getting serious really fast, and one of them points a gun at the nuke, saying he'll blow everyone up. But Nolan decides he can't wait any longer, and when he gets a clean shot of the guy, he takes it. This allows the rest of the LAPD to take the last guy into custody and safely apprehend the nuke. I feel like I don't have to tell you guys this, but I think just the fact that a nuke was involved in an episode on its own is enough to make this the craziest episode in the show. But the small details of the episode make it even crazier. That was the top 10 craziest episodes in The Rookie. Make sure to subscribe to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.